Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Towell and I'm one of the curriculum specialists at the Cafe. The following is a short overview of the course outline template for the Activation Coordination in Gerontology program. I've given you a sample here with some educated guesses for the Restorative Care course and hopefully give you some tips as well when you're completing your course outline. When you receive your course outline, it will have some information pre-filled in on the first and the second page of the outline. You'll also have some instructions highlighted in yellow. Once you've completed the outline, please remove all the instructions highlighted in yellow and submit this as a final course outline. So let's take a look. We have the title, the year, the program, the course code if it's known, the course hours per week, the GPA weighting, which is equivalent to the course hours, prerequisites, if any, co-requisites, if any, and then your name. The rest of the information you don't need to worry about at this time. First thing to do is to review the course description. If you notice that there is an error, then please make an edit and put it in red. Depending on when we receive this update, we may or may not be able to update the course description. It depends on whether or not it has been placed on our website or placed in any other source. The prior learning and assessment and recognition recognizes students who have outside experience, previous life, work experiences, and/or school. And in order for a student to apply for a prior learning assessment and recognition, then they need to actually submit an application and pay for a small fee. They also need to take some kind of a test or assignment or a combination of both. If you have a specific idea of how you would like the students to be able to be completing their PLAR challenge, then place it below the checkbox, like I've put here. This course is a combination of a lab and a classroom component. There will be assignments that will be more suitable for a lab and assignments more suitable for a class. So I need to make sure that if I specify a challenge test, that it aligns with the outcomes and that it also aligns with the nature of the course. You can see that I have some sample course learning outcomes, and what I did when I came up with these outcomes is I asked myself, what would a student need to be able to demonstrate by the end of the course? I have a measurable statement that's clear and would be understandable to a student coming into the program. The very first outcome, compare the roles and responsibilities of the activation coordinator with those of the interdisciplinary care team members, would require a number of smaller learning objectives to be met prior to demonstrating this. In fact, I might decide to evaluate the students at a lower level earlier in the course, perhaps just on specific roles and responsibilities, and then later on in the course evaluate them at the comparison level, which is a higher level of learning expectation. Course learning outcome number 2 definitely requires some kind of a practical exam component. I need to be able to see students complete safe transfers and feeding techniques as part of a restorative plan of care for older adults. I've highlighted a couple words in my sample outcomes here because these are words that I'm not sure if all of the team would agree with, and so I've flagged them for future discussion. The essential employability outcomes are outcomes that all students should be able to demonstrate by the end of the program, and they mirror or work together with your course learning outcomes. Things like communication, problem solving, organizational skills, technology skills, time management, and there are a total of 11. Please visit the CAFE website for some really good overview of both the skills and also some teaching and learning resources around this, and assessment resources too. When you're making your selections for your essential employability outcomes, you'll notice that all 11 are there. It would be very rare for a course to evaluate all 11 essential employability outcomes. The list I have here are what I've selected for this particular course. You'll notice that I have not changed any of the wording of the outcomes, and I've selected them only if I'm evaluating them. The following is the sequence of instruction. And what you'll notice is that I've actually got some of the information filled in for you. Some of the things that I'm not sure about, I've highlighted in yellow. I've clearly defined what's happening in the class, which is only 1 hour in length, and what's happening in the lab, which is 2 hours in length for each week. I might want to use something like unit titles to help describe what the student is going to learn. But if that doesn't work for me, and I don't think that I need that, I can delete that. It's just that when I'm describing learning, that I use a verb like define for restorative care, or identify common assistive devices used by activation coordinators, to really make it specific to what the learning expectation is in that particular week or unit. As you go across, you'll notice that there are specific readings or required resources for that particular week. In this case, in week 2, this is a required reading for week 2. And I've just made up this book. It doesn't actually exist. When I'm deciding on my learning outcomes, I probably want to do this last because it is possible that I will go back and change or add to my learning outcomes right up until the last minute of me submitting my course outline. So I highly recommend that you do not complete this column until everything is finalized. There's some rough ideas of things that you might be doing as intended learning activities already pre-populated in your template. If you have a very specific learning activity that you would like your students to be able to do in this course, then please go ahead and add it, but you're not obligated to fill in this column. Once you know what your evaluations will be, then list them in the week that they're due. Give them short, clear explanations, and then a weighting that totals up to 100% by the end of the course. As we go down, I'll just take a look at the evaluation criteria and give you a few tips and suggestions. Now here you'll see some of the yellow instructions that I had mentioned at the beginning. You'll want to delete all of these when you're finished, but I left them here to show you a few key points. Students need to have as close as possible to 30% of their grade by week 7. This can pose a challenge for all of us as course developers because it's hard to think of smaller activities that a student would demonstrate by week 7. If you're having trouble thinking of ideas, definitely talk to me and I can give you some suggestions. Generally, no one evaluation should be weighted more than 30% unless it's a project or assignment with smaller deliverables throughout the term. When we look at our evaluations, it's really important to do a double check throughout the entire design process and ask ourselves, do we have an outcome that directly aligns with this particular evaluation method? Have we created that alignment piece that we're desiring for all our courses? Also, are we evaluating at the correct level and in the correct domain? If it's a psychomotor skill, are we using a psychomotor evaluation? If it's a cognitive skill, are we using a cognitive evaluation? When you summarize your evaluation criteria, feel free to group things like I've done here. Also, pay close attention to the wording that you've used. Lab worksheet. If I go back to week 3, 5, or 7, I should see the exact same wording here. I shouldn't see a different variation of lab worksheet. And as I mentioned at the beginning, a practical demonstration and test will take considerably more time than just a normal test. So very good to plan ahead as to how much time that's going to take in this particular course, and then plan your lab time around that. If you feel that it's not feasible to evaluate your students all during regularly scheduled lab time, then please do talk to me and we'll work out a different solution. You'll see that I have a wide variety of testing methods here. This particular example, the worksheet, is something that's actually going to be completed during class time, whereas the case study is something that students would work on at home and not have any class time really probably to work on it. However, when I am designing the weekly lessons, if I was teaching this course, I would give students lots of time to practice similar types of case studies within the class and get feedback on that through peer review, small group discussion, large group discussion, and other methods. Beneath the evaluation criteria summary is a list of notes. Again, we've given you some suggestions for those notes, things that are pretty common to most teachers. Also, it's nice that things are consistent and that we're using similar notes to describe our evaluations. However, in saying that, you are more than welcome to edit this. You can delete anything that you don't need, and you can also add to this as well. The idea of the evaluation notes is that you're giving students extremely important information that will help them to be successful in their evaluations. It's not to substitute an evaluation outline or any other kind of evaluation description that you would give to help students to learn about the evaluation or assessment method. It's just the really key notes that you want to tell them. Once you know your text, add your text below the required text list. If you have any supplies, like a lab coat, lab ID, or any other equipment that you know the students will need, you can put it here. If you have a really important website, not a comprehensive list of websites, but one that's really essential and part of the required reading, then do include it here. But generally, it's the textbook that they really need and also the required resources. The remaining of the course outline includes a variety of policies and expectations. There is no need to edit any of these sections, so really this is where you're going to stop in your course outline. I hope that was a quick overview and help you to get started on your course outline. I welcome any of your questions, and you can contact me anytime. Thanks for listening.